Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back. We have the iPad Mini 1, the first mini. Yay! 16 gig version. They also have a 32 and a 64. Now, I'm going to try and keep this short. All right, got it on a trade deal. Enough said on that. What are they worth in real cash money today? Well, for this version at least, in 16 gig, about 20 bucks Canadian. And that's if it's got an average or above average battery, okay, for battery health. This one has average, which is about 86%, okay? You can still get batteries on Amazon, so if you want to change it out, go ahead. It's an interesting process, let me tell you. It's not as straightforward as our phones are, but hey, there you go, it's Apple. Now, I don't know why I'm collecting these things, to be honest. I already have a Mini 2, but my buddy had this, and he needed some stuff, and it's like, all right, well, what do you got? And so he had this and another item, which we'll show you on the next video. And I thought, okay, let's do a swap. What can it hurt? And besides, it's a Mini. It doesn't take up much space. Computers do, but this thing doesn't. So I thought, and I can compare it too, for you fine folk, between the Mini 1 and the Mini 2, because I have the Mini 2, right? So, all right, so it comes from the factory with iOS 6. It can go to 9.3.5. Now, in the event you want to buy one of these things in this day and age, okay, be aware that if it does not have OS 9.3.5 on it, it may or may not update the conventional method through system settings, okay? Mine did not, and so I had to go to iTunes on my Windows computer. But if you have a Mac that has Windows, that has iTunes on it in your house, because, well, they don't do iTunes anymore, so you need an older Mac that runs iTunes. But iTunes on a Mac, iTunes on a PC, then you can update this to 9.3.5 and take it under advisement to do it, because otherwise, well, there are a lot of programs that you may have in your app store that are not going to be compatible with iOS 6, but they would probably be with 9. And I ran into that very problem myself. So I had to definitely go to iOS 9 anyways, and I do make sure that all my computers are always up to date as far as they can handle, okay? Now, you can surf the internet on this thing, all right? You can get to YouTube, which I think that's what it's going to hit first. It does take a while. This is slow, okay? All the specs, well, we're going to just put the link for GSM Arena in the description box below. You can click on it for all the specs on this little puppy to save us some video time, okay? But it does load the YouTube page through Safari. I have not tried to see if I can get Chrome in this thing yet, but in time, we'll see. But Safari is working. It is slow. You may experience buffering. I am connected to a 5 gigahertz router, which is twice the speed but a shorter distance than 2.4 gigahertz. Because 2.4 gigahertz is half the speed but longer range, and I figure, well, I'm only about 10 feet from the bloody router, so hey, 5 gigahertz it is. Give this thing every advantage it can handle. It also serves to places like Amazon and Yahoo and other places like that. Now, as far as security goes, well, if there is anything left in here, it is definitely not much. There may yet be websites I have not hit that will not even allow me on. They'll have garbled pages, or they're just going to say, no way, buddy. And I don't think I have that much of a problem, considering YouTube is a very high secure website, even without logging in. And I got booted off on an older Mac that I technically shouldn't have, but apparently I did. And it booted me. So it's like, okay, so this is still going to YouTube? Good sign. But I will say, do not sign into any websites. Unless, of course, you don't care about your identity or your bank accounts or your credit card information or anything else in life. Then by all means, sign away. But the only thing I would advise to sign into would be the Apple App Store, because you're going to need to get some of your programs back that won't be on here when you do a restore. Okay, and it happens to our Macs too. iMovie, GarageBand, Keynotes, Pages, Numbers. These are programs that do not come back down on a restore, okay? They won't come down on your Mac either the first time you reload it clean since the factory. So if you want those programs, you have to sign into the App Store. Now, I want to tell you a couple things you're going to run into here on something of this vintage, okay? Especially with this iOS, because this happened to me on this one. Now, signing into the thing initially with your Apple ID, it's going to go smooth as glass. User ID, password, hit the little button, phone blows up, gives you a 6-digit code, you'll get another page to type in the code in, hit the button, and that goes through and it'll finish setting up the iPad and you will be fine. When it comes to the App Store, for firing it up the first time, you're definitely going to have to log in, and that again means Apple ID, password, push button, phone blows up, but that fails because there will not be another screen to type in that 6-digit code. It's just going to say you have the wrong username and password, which you might have, so feel free to make a couple of attempts just to see if you are right on typing in your stuff, okay? And definitely we were. And the phone keeps blowing up every time it would fail. So it's like, I forgot about this routine. It happened to me on a Mac once, a long time ago, but I forgot about all that. And it's like, I finally clued in. Yeah, that's it. Okay, now, because it doesn't tell you anything. That's the problem. It doesn't say, oh, by the way, everything's right, but you got to do this. It doesn't tell you that. So what you're going to do, so you save yourself the hassle, the very first time you sign into the App Store, this is exactly what you're going to do. User ID, password, push the button, let it fail, phone blows up, grab the 6-digit code, write it down, okay, or whatever, memorize it quickly, go back to the App Store, do your sign-in process all over again, okay? User ID, password, don't touch the button. Well, you're on your password, you've typed in the last character for your password before you push the button. Okay, that's where you're going to type in that 6-digit code, right where your password goes, okay? So it's got to go at the end of your password. So the last digit you just typed in, that's where you start putting in those numbers to finish off the password, okay? You are not allowed any spaces or any other characters. It must just be the 6 numbers in a row, okay? Once you do that, then you can press the pretty little button and then you will be fine and it will log in and you'll be happy dancing, okay? That's how you got to do it. So those are the only things you're going to really run into as far as that goes. Now, getting apps, of course, you do have a lot of apps probably in your App Store. Try and see how many of them will download with older versions because it will be older versions that will likely come down. So see how many of those come down and what's going to work for you. And don't forget, while you're in there, grab your iMovie and your GarageBand, etc. if you want those back on there. And then you can play with those. I'm probably going to finish the downloads and just set it up as a normal thing, but I don't know yet. We'll see. But either way, grab what you need for that stuff. Go after your other apps, like any of your games or other stuff you've had before. See if you can get older versions of that stuff that will work on iOS 9.3.5, okay? But before you go too far with anything, get 9.3.5 on there anyhow because you're going to need it, all right? There are apps that I downloaded that still came down under iOS 6, but they didn't work. And so it's like, ugh. So I did update to 9.3.5, tried again, and some of those apps did finally work. Others still did fail. Even though they came down, they still failed, okay? Which I don't know why. It's just a thing with the program, right? But keep in mind, it is a slow machine, okay? But that is the only thing you sign into on this thing as the App Store, okay? That's the only security you really have, okay, is with the Apple's App Store. Anything else, you're going to have sporadic security at best or nothing at all. So don't risk your identity over an old antique iPad, okay? Like, these things are more for fun nowadays or learning tools to learn a little bit about the past history or, give them to the kids, just don't let them go on the internet with it, okay? Other than surfing without signing in, okay? Yeah, otherwise, they're kind of an interesting little beast. And I'll be enjoying doing a comparison for you guys between the the Mini M, the Mini 1 and the Mini 2, because I do have the Mini 2 as well, which is also a 16 gig version, so there's going to be at least some fairness there. But even this one didn't last long on the market before it was replaced with the newer version. So, but yeah, I mean, but it's kind of an interesting machine, and it can be used for other things. I have Bibles on here, so I could actually use it as a Bible reader if I wanted to, or you know, whatever type of thing. But I have a few programs on here that I like, and a couple of games so far. Like I said, I have more loading to do on it. We'll see how far I get with it. Maybe down the road I'll give you an update to let you know if it's stressing me out because it's so slow, or if it's just things are, I'll give you a list of programs that I found that work, okay? And don't be afraid to go into the regular portion of the App Store away from your purchase area and see if there is anything for even games and stuff that you might be able to download somehow. Like the majority of them, probably not, okay? But you never know until you try. You know, just see what happens, what can or cannot work. I have some electronic programs that are in my App Store, and they may bark at me because of an iOS version, but you know, you never know. And if they don't bark and they run, well, there you go. So if you're into electronics and you want to have a database of, you know, resistors and transistors and capacitors and all that, there's software for that on the App Store that works quite well. I use them on other iPads, so hey, works, you know. So I'll see if it works on there and let you know. But in the meantime, that's pretty much about all I got for you on this thing. I'm really scared to give a actual star rating, but I think maybe we could do it anyways. If I was looking backwards to 2012 when this thing first came out, I would probably say that at the time, it would have probably deserved something like, I don't know, 4.5 out of 5. And for what it was, okay? And things certainly would have felt at least faster or been faster back then with the older stuff on there. But when you start updating OSs, we know things can get a little slower, right? So, but I would say for this time period, I can't really say that it would be worth a 4.5 out of 5. I can't even honestly give you the go-ahead for like much more than about 3 3/4. Okay, there are the cautionaries, right? It's not safe to sign into anything but the App Store. Okay, so general surfing, watching YouTube while you still can is fine. There's still programs that can run on this thing. That's not a big deal either. But it's not something that could be a daily driver like it was in 2012, okay, and 2013, and probably 2014, 2015, okay? But nowadays, no, it's not a daily driver by any means. But it does still have a lot of usefulness, even once it's completely off the internet. Whatever software you do have on there is still going to be useful. It's still going to be a functional machine. It's just at that point, and we're not sure exactly when this thing will stop surfing completely. But at that point, then it would be kind of like a useless turd at that point. So just keep that stuff in mind, okay? So that's what I got for you on today's video on this thing, all right? Stay tuned. I will put it up against the Mini 2 as well, which is also, mine is also a 16 gig version to make that part at least fair. Check the description below for the link for all the specs on this thing, so you can learn more about the internals of this thing and other information you may want to know. GSM Arena does cover more spec lines and more information that's also easier to understand in some cases than Apple's website. So anyway, that's what I got. So stay tuned, because we have the next little piece of technology that's going to be coming up at some point today for you guys that I also got off my buddy on our trade deal. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll be sure to catch you guys on the next video. See ya.